We've never been out soliciting votes before.
I have, because that's our road to do
I
that.
haven't, I've not.
Okay, Mr. Sharp, we're good.
Good evening, everybody. You ready?
Yeah, what it is.
Good evening, everybody. Reset. Welcome to the Nash County Board of Education Administrative Services and Operations Committee agenda. We're going through the roll call, please. Lane Dunston.
Here.
Franklin Lamb.
Here.
Sharonda Thomas Bullock.
Here.
Donovan Tavis.
Here.
All right, is there any corrections from the minutes from the last meeting? I'd like to make one, please. There was actually on your minutes, it said actually for Dean Edwards as a member of the committee. He's not a member of the committee. He's actually adjunct person from the board itself. So we can make that correction, be great. We got almost nine items to go through this evening. So I'm going to ask that we would sort of process that. We'll have question discussions doing those. So we're right at the end of each presentation. And then we'll call all for a vote at the end to consume all 9 items. Yes, sir. So the first item, any other corrections or modifications to the minutes? I need a vote to accept the minutes with the correction.
I move to accept the minutes with the noted correction.
Second.
Been moving properly second. Any questions or discussions? Hearing none, all in favor, would you vote by roll call, please? Mr. Lang,
Yes.
Mr. Lamb,
Yes.
Bill Sharp, yes. Ms. Sharonda,
Yes.
and Ms. Donovan.
Yes.
The yes has it. We'll move right on to the next item. Next item on the agenda is the recruitment of bonuses. Ms. Sheila Wallace.
Go to the next one.
All right, so we'll come back to Ms. Wallace. Northern Nash HVAC, Mr. Shannon Davis.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Pre-bid meeting was conducted in July at Northern Nash for the replacement of HVAC system in the gymnasium. SC&M Contractors, SPC Mechanical, Carolina Commercial Systems of North Carolina, Alford Mechanical, and Pemberton Incorporated submitted bids. Pemberton submitted a low bid of $234,630 as shown on the attached bid document. The project will be funded with ESSER stimulus funds. Superintendent recommends the project be approved to Pemberton in the amount of $234,630.
Any questions? All right.
Next one is Hubbard Elementary School window replacement. An RFP was advertised in July for the window replacement at Hubbard Elementary School. We received bids from Genesic Building Group and Carolina Classic Window and Glass. Carolina Classic Window and Glass submitted a low bid of $468,300, as shown on the attached bid document. This project will also be funded with ESSER stimulus funds. Superintendent recommends the project be approved to Carolina Classic Window and Glass in the amount of $468,300.
Questions, discussions? Next.
Next one is Willowford Elementary School window replacement. RFP was also advertised at the same time in July for window replacement at Willowford Elementary School. Genesic Building Group and Carolina Classic Window and Glass were the only two submitted bids. Carolina Classic Window and Glass submitted a low bid of $544,400 as shown on the attached bid document. This project will also be funded with ESSER stimulus funds. Superintendent recommends the project be approved to Carolina Classic Window and Glass in the amount of $544,400.
Question, discussions?
Yes, sir.
Next.
Parker Middle School chiller replacement. Bids were solicited for a new chiller at Parker Middle School on August 25th. Hoffman and Carrier submitted bids. Carrier submitted a low bid of $107,739.57 as shown on the attached bid document. This project will also be funded with ESSER stimulus funds. Superintendent recommends purchase of the chiller from Carrier in the amount of $107,739.57.
Question, discussions?
And then do we do the installation?
We're doing that, yes, sir.
Anything else? Next.
Pre-bid meeting was conducted on August 12th at Rocky Mount Middle School for the replacement of a chiller. SE&M, SPC Mechanical, All Red Mechanical, Carolina Commercial System, and Alford Mechanical submitted bids. Carolina Commercial Systems of North Carolina submitted a low bid of $111,635 as shown on the attached bid document. This project will also be funded with ESSER stimulus funds. Superintendent recommends the project be approved to Carolina Commercial Systems of North Carolina in the amount of $111,635.
Question, discussions? Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Next item we'll have on the agenda for discussion will be Solution Street contract. Janet Morris. Oh, Ms. Wallace, you want to move up? You want to jump up to one?
Yes.
Okay, we'll jump up to number one.
No, I'm submitting or we're presenting for Ms. Mars.
Okay, so,
She's not here tonight.
all right, so what we'll do, we'll go back up to vacancies or recruitment bonuses,
Okay.
and we'll work our way down to that.
Recruitment bonuses was presented.
Or Ms. Wallace?
No problem. Recruitment bonuses was presented to the board at our last meeting. However, we failed to bring it to the open board for approval. So we're just requesting approval tonight to pay the recruitment bonus fees that has already been outlined for you.
Okay, we had a discussion at the last meeting, correct?
Yes, we did.
Okay, any other questions regarding that? Next.
Okay. Vacancies. Current vacancies, however, when this was submitted early in this week, it has been updated. It's not working, Chris. Okay, at the time that it was submitted, we did have 47 classified vacancies. 28 of those were TAs, 12 of those were bus drivers, 56 certified vacancies, 39 were teachers, 7 district level vacancies, and a total for 110 vacancies. Within the last 2 weeks, we had 4 retirements, 28 resignation, and this information is also located in the iDashboards reports.
This is for information only.
Yes, it is.
All right, so no action required on that. Next, we'll jump down to the Solution Tree contract.
Just, I'm sorry, real quick. Those are the updated numbers or it has been?
I have the updated numbers and I have some information that I will share with you in closed session. Okay. Solution Tree, is there a presentation for that? Not sure. Yes. No, okay. So Solution Tree, in a coordination with the IPG grant with Rocky Mount Middle, we had to contract with a vendor that was approved through the state. Solution Tree will come in and provide those services for the staff and students at Rocky Mount Middle, and that contract is for $135,000 for 1 year. And we're asking for approval for this.
Questions? No questions, no discussions? Thank you.
Thank you.
So is Ms. Jarrett.
Hello,
Okay, howdy, how are you?
I'm great. How are you all?
Wonderful, thank you. You're next at the plate.
Okay. I presented to you in your packet two budget adjustments that have been made. And it is part of the audit of the June 30th, 2020 ending fiscal year. And that is, even though we are not paying these costs, we have to include them on our financial statement. And that's the cost of the buses that the debt is being paid by the state of $1,070,492. And then the costs of construction, which are at the point of June 30th, the architectural fees that were paid by the county, Nash County, to the amount of $665,627.24. We are presenting the superintendent presents these for your approval as presented.
Any questions or discussion regarding these two amendments? Hearing none? Thank you, Ms. Sherritt. So we have went through 9 items for review and approval. I need a motion to accept all 9 items. Since there are no questions or discussion, if there's any at this point in time, any questions or discussions?
I have
There-
one question.
Yes, ma'am.
This is to be moved to go to the full board, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'll be happy to make that motion, sir.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved by Ms. Davis, second by Mr. Light. Any other further questions or discussions? Hearing none. All those in favor? Mr. Lamb,
Yes.
Mr. Duncan,
Yes. Very nice. Yeah.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Bullock? Rhonda?
Yes. Yes.
Did I miss anyone? And Bill Sharp says yes. With that said, it's been approved by unanimous vote. And if there's nothing else that calls this committee meeting, I hereby adjourn this one. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think it's Sharonda or LaShonda. Is that you?
Not academic services. Are we going on? Okay, student support services. All right, at this time, I'd like to call the Student Support Services and Operations Committee to order. I'll start with a roll call of committee members. Board Member Chavis,
Here.
Board Member Jenkins, Board Member Edwards, Board Member E. Bullock.
Here.
First item on the agenda, I hope you've had a chance to read the meeting minutes from our last meeting. At this time, I entertain a motion to accept the minutes from our last meeting.
Second.
All right, the motion has been properly moved by Board Member E. Bullock and seconded by Board Member Chavis. Thank you. Our first presentation is Rocky Mount Police Department SRO contract by Mr. Farrell.
Good afternoon, everyone. This MOU sets the conditions for the roles of SROs, law enforcement agents, while establishing guidelines for handling violations of the law that are committed on school campus. Nash County Public Schools and the Rocky Mount PD. This particular one is for the Rocky Mount Police Department. This contract recognizes that safety and security are paramount on school campuses. The police policies and procedures as outlined in this MOU are applicable to incidents involving students, faculty members, and staff of Nash County Public Schools who are on Nash County Public Schools campus during regular instructional days, as well as incidents that occur on any NCPS school bus and extracurricular events. This MOU covers 6 full-time SROs placed at the following 7 schools, 3 middle schools and 4 high schools within the city limits of Rocky Mount. Those schools would be Parker Middle School, Edwards Middle School, Rocky Mount Middle School, City High, Tar River Academy, Rocky Mount High School, and Nash Central High School. The fiscal implications, the approximate total cost of 6 full-time SROs with full salaries and benefits paid by Nash County Public Schools is $397,431.15. And that's from available funds. Strategic priority that it's aligned to is priority 5, efficient and effective operations across all district departments. The superintendent, Dr. Ellis, recommends approval of this MOU as presented.
Is there any discussion? Yes.
Last question.
Jan?
That also includes coverage for board meetings such as tonight? Is that incorporated inside that process?
Not this particular MOU because we would receive services for security from either Nash County Sheriff Department or Nashville Police Department. So it would be covered in the current MOU that we have with the Nash County Sheriff Department to provide security services along with the services they provide for the SROs within the schools in the county.
This is just the city of Rocky Mount.
Yes, sir.
All right. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to present the MOU to the full board for approval.
Second.
The motion has been moved by Board Member Bullock and seconded by Board Member Chavis. Roll call vote. Chavis,
Yes.
Bullock, and Washington, I'm a yes. Motion carried. Next item is the transportation update for information only. Mr. Farrell?
About to run away from you, Ms. Wash.
No, not on this one.
She will, so she's not gonna let you go.
So there was a brief PowerPoint that was shared with you. There's no fiscal implications that I'm reporting in this. It is a transportation update. And the superintendent, Dr. Stephen Ellis, presents this information only.
Yes, ma'am.
I take it then that the issues that we have, all been taken care of. I haven't had a phone call this week, so I'm thinking that everything is running smoothly now, even though we are short of bus drivers.
Well, I wouldn't say smoothly, but I would say we're working on it. We're getting there. We still have hiccups in the process, but we are working through it the best we can. If I can go through this and probably some more questions will come, and I'll talk through some of those if it's okay. I was trying to catch my, no, man, I'm sorry.
You said you didn't have any calls. You got a little.
No, ma'am, it's okay.
He's shocked.
So we have the number of buses with routes that we currently have is 113. The number of buses with routes and without drivers at this point, it was 4 at the start of the week. I think we may be back up to 6, but when we started the school year out, we had 12 routes that were uncovered. And if I could talk just a little bit about that. This was an unusual year, and it was tough, not just for Nash County Public Schools with transportation, but transportation departments all across the state. And one of the reasons for that is because, as you know, everybody in the state last year, for the most part, at some point was in a B or C situation. And so what most school districts had to do was tear up their transportation routing process that they probably used for years, because we had to build in an A-B schedule. And we had time to do that because our kids didn't report to school last year until October. So fast forward to the end of this school year, we're in an A-B schedule with our transportation routing system. And so we go into summer school, and we just keep the same system that we had for summer school because we were able to make it work. So summer school ends, and we have about a good 3 weeks to rebuild our whole transportation routing process again. And so it put a lot of stress on the transportation department because that is a lot of kids to route. As you'll see a little bit later in the slide, I think we have over 9,000 kids who have signed up for buses. So the transportation department had to go back and rebuild those bus routes for every single child who was asking for a bus. So the process was a little bit different this year than what it is in a normal year because of what we had to do with the A-B schedule last year. And then you put on top of that being down 12 drivers, it just made for the perfect storm. And we all felt it. I'm sure you all heard it, and we're getting phone calls, and we felt it, the students felt it, parents felt it. And it's just not a good place to be, but it really was the perfect storm of a number of things coming to a culmination.
I
Yes,
think
sir.
that's why they didn't call me and ask me what time my bus started.
You just didn't know to get them on.
So
And that was 6 o'clock too, by the way.
it's been tough. So the number of drivers who we have that are currently driving is 118. And again, this was at the beginning of the week. And so if you look there, we have 5 drivers, and they only drive in the morning. And then we have another 5 drivers who only drive in the afternoon. So when you do that math, it puts you back at the 113 that we talked about at the very, very beginning. So we have 20 substitute drivers, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a few. We had a bus license class that started on 9/7, and there were 15 applicants who signed up for the class. Now, bus driving class is like the Marine Corps. You might start out with 15, but you might end with 6. And people quit for various reasons. And I'm not sure the exact number that we're down to, but in talking with Mr. Lickey this afternoon, we have lost some drivers or potential drivers who have signed up for the class during this week. So the students currently assigned to a bus as of 9/7 was 9,083. And in my conversation with Mr. Lickey, he said we normally operate around 7,500 students who are assigned to buses. So right now, that's approximately 63% of our students in the district who are assigned to ride in the bus. Now, that doesn't mean that they all ride a bus every day, but they're assigned to a bus. So just some of the things that we've been dealing with, going through. There were over 2,000 updates and changes, the assignments, removal, additions for student transportation made since 8/23. We have bus drivers who are calling out on a daily basis because of various reasons and unable to drive. And this adds to an additional layer of strain due to the shortage of bus drivers. We do have 20 substitute drivers, but it's hard to get many of them to agree to drive because they have employment that does not always align with our bus routes.
or our bus timing schedule. There's a bus driver shortage throughout the state, throughout the nation. You've probably seen it on the news. You've probably read about it in the newspaper, online. There's a shortage, but there are some districts around us who are not fighting the battles that we're fighting. And it's because they have a mandate in place where they require TAs to drive in their district. We currently have 22 of our drivers out of 113 who are what we call dual employees. That means that they're either working as a teacher assistant with child nutrition, and we do actually have some teachers who drive school bus for us. So our transportation times to school and from school routes and finding drivers have improved over the past 2 weeks, but we still have some work to do. And I would not be honest if I was standing here and I told you that everything was perfect, because it's not. But we're working through it. Dr. Ellis, Mr. Lickey, and myself, we are trying to think about as we move forward, what processes, what procedures, what protocols we need to put in place to tighten up some of the things that we've seen. Because basically what COVID did was shone a brighter light on some of the gaps and issues that existed within our transportation department. And we are aware of that, and again, trying to put together a plan to address it.
Any discussion? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Farrell, for that explanation. I understand now what was taking place, particularly that first week. And I commend you and the superintendent and the staff, Mr. Leckey, for the work that you have done, because I did not receive a single call this past week. So that's a testament to your work, and I say thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Davis?
I have to echo, I only had one. And I did have one last week in the midst of others that actually understood. It was from a monitor saying that she appreciated your efforts and Dr. Ellis's effort. They knew you all were up against the wall and they wanted to say thank you. So to have a positive one was a very good thing, and to only have one this week was a good thing.
Yes, ma'am.
So we know you're working on it, and thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Lamb?
Dr. Ellis, I think you stated that the bus drivers, if the state ever passes a budget, they're gonna be getting a raise, and we need to make sure our bus drivers, as well as our teachers, thank them for the job they're doing with no pay scale due to our state government, but the raise should be coming.
House budget, I think, and the Senate agreed to a $13 minimum this year, then 15 goes up to 15 next year for transportation, and I also believe custodians, so NTAs. So that will help.
One question, I just got it. I had a call this morning. Well, it's like an hour. Do we not send out the messages for your bus being late anymore from transportation? Because she said she didn't need a call or anything. The bus was supposed to pick the kid up at 6:30. It was 7:25 for the bus. Right? Can you check with Licky and see if this is? And the school told her to call the garage, and the garage said you need to call the school. So if we can just get that communication straight.
Yeah. So, and I can address that.
All right.
We've changed from Blackboard to mass communication. And when we had Blackboard, our transportation department had the ability to send messages to homes based on the students on a particular bus. And so it took that responsibility away from the school. So in our change with mass communication, and Dr. Catalana has been working feverishly to get us a meeting with them so that we can find out how to use that system in the same way that we were able to use Blackboard. We do have the capabilities. It's just that we have to get someone in to show us how to make that work. And Dr. Catalana, you probably can speak a little more about that than I can. Yes, ma'am, if you would. Thanks.
So in the transition, the Blackboard, actually, Mass Notification is owned by Blackboard. It's just a newer product. And there is a plugin that pulls the information from PowerSchool on a nightly basis. And so it's pulling the bus routes. We just wanted to make sure that the bus information that we had assigned to the students was 100% accurate before we start sending calls at 6 a.m. To students. So we're in the process of verifying that information is correct. And then meeting, like Mr. Farrow said, meeting with Blackboard to make sure that plugin is working and we're ready to go. So it is something that will be coming within the next week or two at the latest. Yep.
Because you really want to wait for you to have a clean set of routes before you download up into PowerSchool so it goes into Blackboard. So that's our concern right now, to make sure the routes are clean.
So what we've asked schools to do is I have asked Mr. Lick and his team every afternoon before they leave, when we are aware that a driver has called out or someone is not going to be able to drive the bus, to make contact with the schools, to make them aware of the bus. If we have been able to find someone who's going to fill in who that person will be, if there's a change in the bus, to share all that information. And then we've asked them to make a mass communication call to their families to make them aware. And most of our schools have been doing that. Sounds like in this particular situation, it did not happen. And there has been some, you talked about the communication between what's the role of transportation, what's the role at the school level. That's some of the stuff that we want to clean up. It's like we having to go back to reteach, retrain some things where COVID kind of threw us off a little bit last year, but those are some of the things that we want to strengthen.
I
Yes.
would like to add that I had one parent in the grocery store that was complimentary of the Connect Ed. I think your call that went out saying that work with us, be patient. She said she really appreciated that. And they had a discussion about it at Bible study. So I'm glad you did that.
We'll take prayers too.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. All right, that item was for information only. So we're gonna move on to the maximum contract for school nurses, Ms. Grant.
Good evening. I bring before you tonight a contract with Maxim Healthcare. The contract with Maxim is to provide additional school health support at all of our existing schools, and they will be in the form of nurses or either certified nursing assistants. So our goal is to have a full-time nurse at every school where we have 400 and above students, and then at least a CNA at every school to assist with our COVID testing and COVID contact tracing. So the contract is for a total of $475,000. And we are recommending on behalf of Dr. Ellis approval for the contract.
All right, are you gonna speak to the addendum or?
If you want me to answer.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I can make the motion combined.
Sure. So we would also like to, there is a critical nursing shortage across the nation right now. And so we were hoping to be able to go with all of one company to provide the support that we needed. However, the company has not been able to fulfill the number of nurses and CNAs that we need. So we have also had to pair an additional contract with Interim Healthcare Services for a total of $515,000 to hopefully get us closer to the amount of nurses and certified nursing assistants that we need to fulfill our goal of the staffing I just spoke to. So that contract, we're asking for, on behalf of Dr. Ellis, approval for that contract as well with Interim Healthcare.
So the first thing that needs to happen, Mr. Chair, is that, well, at this time, I need to entertain a motion to add the interim healthcare contract to the maximum contract for agenda purposes.
So moved.
Moved by Board Member Chavis, seconded by Board Member E. Bullock. Roll call vote, Board Member Jenkins.
Yes.
Board Member E. Bullock. Board Member Chavis,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. All right, and then after the agenda change, we will need a motion to recommend approval of the contracts rather for Maxim and interim healthcare for approval.
Second.
Moved by Board Member E. Bullock, seconded by, who was it? By Board Member Chavis. Board Member Jenkins, roll call, Board Member Jenkins. Yes, this. Go ahead.
Did we look at this contract? I know we looked at Maxim. I'm trying to pull it up on my computer for another client, actually two clients recently. I'm not sure.
I don't think this one, we have another one that we have one-on-one personal care assistance with this company, but this is expanding that out specific to nurses and certified nursing assistants. We added it today, Ms. Washington.
I reviewed the contract.
It's the same company we've approved, but it's a different service
sir.
now they're gonna be offering.
Right, they're gonna
I
be
just
helping.
we recently looked at the Maxim contract for two of our clients and proposed various changes. If we didn't look at this one, I certainly would like the board to take advantage of the changes that we proposed for another client. But if other people have reviewed it and you're fine with it, then that's perfectly fine. It took me a second to get logged in here.
The Maxim contract is.
So I had a motion and a second. Motion was from Ms. E. Bullock, second was for Ms. Chavis. Roll call vote on approval for both of the contracts combined to provide the nurses. Board Member Jenkins,
Yes.
Board Member Chavis,
Yes.
Board Member Edwards,
Yes.
and Board Member Bullock.
Yeah.
And I'm a yes, motion carried. Next item is the Nash County Health Department SNFI contract, Ms. Grant.
Okay, and this contract is between the Nash County Health Department and Nash County Public Schools to provide 5 school nurses in identified schools. This contract, there is no money exchanged between us and them. They just provide the funding actually for the 5 nurses. So this is part of the school nurse funding initiative where the goal is to get for us to meet the state and national recommendation of 1 nurse to every 750 students that we have. And so we are asking on behalf of Dr. Ellis to have approval of this contract with the health department. This has been a long-standing contract that we have had for many years with the district and the health department.
Any discussion? At this time, I entertain a motion to recommend the SNFI contract with the Nash County Health Department to the full board for approval. Is there a motion? I'm sorry.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Board Member Jenkins, second by Board Member Chavis. Roll call vote. Board Member Chavis,
Yes.
Board Member Jenkins,
Yes.
Board Member Edwards,
Yes.
Board Member E. Bullock.
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. Motion carries unanimously. If there's no further business for this committee, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Motion to adjourn, I'm sorry.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Board Member Jenkins, motion seconded by Board Member Chavis.
Okay, this time we'll go into the Academic Services and Accountability Committee. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Call the roll. Call the roll.
Motion by Mr. Silver to approve the minutes. Excuse me. All right, Ms. Washington,
Here.
Mr. Silver, Mr. Bissett, out. Ms. S. Bullock.
Here.
Now we entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Silver, second by Ms. Washington. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise. Summer Scholars Academy 2021 Summer Learning Update. Ms. Smith.
Good evening, Chairman Lamb, committee members, and other board members who are present. This summer, as you know, we ran our first K-12 Summer Scholars Academy. It was an enrichment program. Also, it was a response to the student learning that was interrupted due to COVID-19. The 5-week program provided in-person instruction only for specific subjects, as well as offered additional enrichment activities such as our soft skills for our high school students. Serving approximately 3,100 K-12 students, all but 8 of our school sites were used as summer sites. The approximate cost to operate the program was approximately $3 million. The district combined state, federal, and grants to pay for all expenditures. We hired 325 classroom teachers. This includes 21 instructional assistants who we are pleased to say served as teachers of record, 43 support staff, and this includes nurses, counselors, social workers, 12 instructional assistants, and 22 summer school principals, 22 office support staff, 2 interpreters, over 60 bus drivers, and 43 child nutrition staff. I would be remiss if I did not recognize the people who pulled all of this together. And that's the curriculum planning team, along with student services and transportation. But I stand before you to celebrate the curriculum planning committee team. When I call your name, if you're here, please stand. Amy Keith, Angela Caudle, Chad Thompson, Karen Boone, Kevin Cyrus, Marcy Keener, Christy Grant, Monique Hargrove Jones, Nicole Hayes, and Robin Mosley. At this time, Christy Grant will come forward and she will celebrate some EC highlights of the program.
Okay, good evening again. As part of the Summer Scholars Academy program, we offered an extended learning opportunity for our families, for our students served within the adaptive curriculum program. And it was very exciting to see the kids there this summer to participate in student-led learning lessons, shared reading. We did some predictable chart writing, and just to be able to continue that learning since we knew the gaps were kind of large with our children on the adaptive curriculum. We did engage in the full 5 weeks of explicit instruction, focusing on a thematic unit by the C from our core resource unique learning systems. And in the graphs, you will see we did pre-assessments and post-assessments on our students to be able to see where they were at the beginning of the 5 weeks and where they ended after the program. And it was pretty good to see our level in 2 and 3 students, where at the end of when we did the post-test, we had about 77% of our students showed mastery or either growth with our elementary reading. And we had about 55% for elementary math. For our secondary program, we had about 83% of our students showed mastery or made growth in secondary reading, and in secondary math, it's about 70 to 73%. For our level 1 students, which would be just like if you think about the integrated assessment, our lower performing students, we showed about 60% mastery. They take 1 combined test with reading and math. So we were able to show about 60% mastery and growth and about 50% for secondary reading and math together. So we were pretty excited about being able to have the students over the summer, and we do foresee that this will be a program that we would like to continue for our students.
Good evening. I'm Karen Boone. I'm the K-5 math specialist. And I'm Robin Mosley. I'm the 3-5 ELA specialist.
Just right. Hi there.
During the 5 weeks of the Summer Scholars Program, we offered reading and math instruction to every student. Students in grades 3 through 5 also received science instruction. At each Summer Scholars Academy site, we offered unique enrichment opportunities. These opportunities range from arts and crafts centered around a global theme, STEM, where the students participated in hands-on experiences through the Flight Lab program from Camp Invention, health and awareness, dance centered around a global theme, and young authors. The objectives of the iStation Indicators of Progress, or known as the ISIP, early reading and math, are to identify students at risk of reading and math failure. Through this data, teachers could target instruction based on student needs. During the month of June, we had 88% of our students at levels 1 and 2. In July, 78% of our students were at levels 1 and 2, which is an improvement of 5% fewer students in these levels. However, in June, 17% of our students were at levels 3, 4, and 5. At the end of the program, 22.4% of our students were at level 3, 4, and 5, showing an improvement of 5.4%. Looking at the reading data by grade level, each grade level by the end of the program had fewer students in level 1 and 2 and more students in level 3, 4, and 5, thus starting to close the learning gaps. According to Read to Achieve Law, we had 88 students, 22% demonstrate reading proficiency through iStation by achieving the 258 ISIP score or the 725 Lexile score. Our dual language students were also able to continue being immersed in their Spanish learning environment. In June, 42% of the K-3 students were at level 3, 4, and 5. And by the end of the program, we had 54%, resulting in a 12% increase in these levels.
K-5 students made progress this summer in our mathematics during our Summer Scholars Academy, according to our iStation data. In June, students' results showed that 90% of students tested at levels 1 and 2. In July, after 5 weeks of instruction, 82% of students tested at level 1 and 2, an improvement of 8% fewer students at these levels. Also from the data, in June, students' results showed that about 10% of our students tested at levels 3, 4, and 5. In July, after 5 weeks of instruction, about 17.5% of the students tested at levels 3, 4, and 5. An increase of about 7.5% of our students moved to those levels. So looking at the math data by grade level, most improved their percent with fewer students in level 1 and 2 from the June to July, and a higher number of students moved to level 3, 4, and 5 in July. So overall, with 5 weeks of math instruction, students began closing the learning gap. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Marcy Keener. I'm the 612 Science Specialist for the district. And for secondary, I'm going to talk about the middle school data. We used NCPS in order to assess our students and look at how we could achieve, decreasing the learning gap. So in middle school, we were able to offer the students core instruction in language arts, math, and science. And we also offered them an enrichment in multiple areas, as you see, from music to study skills. In high school, we offered face-to-face learning in all the tested areas of English 2, Math 1, Math 3, and biology. We also offered other things via Edmentum. And then we also offered, as Ms. Dancy Smith talked about, the essential skills or soft skills for our high schools. With Exact Path, the whole point of the program is to actually look at the students at a pre and a post assessment to see the achievement gaps and how we close those achievement gaps. So I'm going to explain Edwards Middle School, and then you can look down the list of the schools and their data. For Edwards Middle School, 36 students, sixth grade students had an average percent change or gain of 41% in reading. 47 students had 9% gain, average percent change or gain in reading, and 52 students at Edwards Middle School in eighth grade had an 8% gain. So the data that we're looking at are all the students that had a pre-test and a post-test. So we were looking at the valid data of a pre and a post. As a district, you can see in our totals, in sixth grade, we had an average percent change of 17% in sixth grade, 11% in seventh grade, and 8% and 24% in eighth grade. And that's just a graph that represents that data. In math, it's set up the same way. And so you can see there's some great gains that we had in mathematics. So as a district, the total gains is 33% average percent change in sixth grade, 29% change in seventh grade, and 19% change in eighth grade. So you can see that we took our learning gaps, our learning achievements, and closed those gaps in all three of those grades.
That's the question. Is that based on exact path?
That's
The data that.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that. Thank you.
I'm going backwards again.
What was the question? Or what was you-
Was it based on exact path? And that's the assessment tool that we used in middle school. And I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Keith for high school.
Good evening. My name is Amy Keith, and I serve as the 612 ELA specialist for the district. And I'm going to talk to you just a little bit about high school. As Ms. Keener stated, for high school, we offer credit recovery at all of our sites. And as you can see, we had 2,746 high school credits recovered this summer, which is wonderful. This allowed our students to get back on track. So as they started this year, they're where they need to be. So that's definitely something to celebrate. You can see we also have recorded here by sites because all of our sites offered that this summer. In addition, at Early College High School, we were able to recover 50 college credits. So again, these opportunities allowed our students to get back on track to where they needed to be as they started the new school year. As we move into the next slides, I'm going to share the first few slides, and then Ms. Hayes will come up and share the additional slides. But I really feel like as we go into these next slides, you're going to see some pictures, you're going to see some numbers, you're going to see some words. And in my mind, this is the true celebration of Summer Scholars Academy. Yes, we were happy to see the gains with the data, but I think when you see these pictures, you'll really see what we saw as being one of the greatest rewards and benefits of the program. The first celebration is we had 83 summer graduates. So that is definitely something to celebrate. And then in these next two slides highlight events in our secondary Summer Scholars Academy. During this time, the kids got to collaborate around text. They got to employ critical thinking skills. They got to design buildings and towers as they worked through their STEM classes. They were able to use manipulatives in math to help solve problems. Again, you can see these pictures, and it just shows you the kids doing school again for the first time for many of them since 2020. Our teachers set the expectations high, and our kids rose to that challenge. And you can see that in these pictures. And we heard numerous times from teachers and from students about what a wonderful opportunity this was to get the students back into school and get them ready for this school year. So again, these are some additional pictures to just re-emphasize that collaboration, that creativity, and the critical thinking that we saw. Yeah, it was definitely wonderful. And now Ms. Hayes, she is going to continue the conversation around some more celebration.
Just a question real quick.
Yeah.
Can you cycle back to the graduation part?
Yes. Mhm.
I think the number was 83?
Yes.
Okay. Explain that again.
There were 83 summer graduates that were able to
graduate after they went through that credit recovery program this summer, they were able to then graduate.
Okay, so in other words, their deadline had come in May. They couldn't graduate May or June.
Right.
And was it because they didn't meet, what was it they didn't meet for the graduation purposes? I know they didn't meet all,
Yeah,
I
they
get
didn't
that,
have-
but what was it they weren't meeting?
Those credits, they needed those certain
Right,
amount
I
of
understand.
credits. And so they
Okay.
were able to go into their Admentum program and gain those credits to be able to graduate.
Can you further explain which credits, or was it a myriad of them?
It varied depending on the students.
Okay, and the only reason I ask is because we, as a board, approved a reduction in credits from 28 to 22, and they still didn't meet that, right? And we were told that by reducing it to 22, that this right here shouldn't have happened.
That could have happened in some cases, but it probably didn't in others because we still had the 28 credits for some, because some have already almost met that anyway. So what we had done is this gave them an opportunity to recover those credits that they have missed and give them opportunity. They may be in 1 credit away. They may have been 2 credit away. So then probably we're not far away in meeting this. We always have a summer graduation every year. This was not the first year, but this year we were able to gain 83 from each of the schools with that. And this may included with that 22 credits.
So I guess I'm asking, or trying to picture, why should we have reduced from 28 to 22 if we're going to provide this kind of program anyway?
Because at that point, it was giving them the opportunity to meet that where they may not even had the opportunity even being close to 22. And so we were just, with COVID, if you remember, we were just trying to ensure that they had the opportunity because of the things that they were having to go through with the COVID incident. That's the only thing. Now we have moved back to 28 credits.
And can I just add that also you have to consider it's not just the number. In some instances, and I know this from experience, it's a particular class. So you have to have 4 maths, you have to have 4 sciences. So sometimes it's not that they don't have the correct amount of credits, but sometimes it's a particular class that they may have missed for whatever reason. So it's not there's no one size fits all. So sometimes it's necessary for them to take an additional class. So that may bump them up to 29 credits, but it's just a matter of meeting the requirement, not just the number.
Exactly right.
So how many do you think would have been in there had we not reduced it from 28 to 22?
I would have to go back and look at that number. I can't give that guesstimation right now. What we know is there's various things that were going on here for this graduation. Ms. Bullock makes an excellent point. That's exactly right. That there are various things that are going on here within the graduates. And so, I mean, we can get that number. If you
Yeah, I would
want
just
that
like
number
to,
see.
I'd just like to see what we did as a group and we approved as a board, how many we helped.
Okay, we can do that. We can get that together.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
And
And,
we'll bring it back.
Yeah, and I think we do have to do it by policy because we changed it in policy to the 22. I think we got to change it back to the 28.
I would think that we obviously help everybody that graduated from that perspective.
I think the change was just for this year, or just. for
Right, I
this
think
year.
the motion had a time limit.
Okay, but what does it say in the policy?
I'd have to look at it, but I remembered it being just for that year and not our policy going forward.
Okay. Okay. Surely. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm working a second. Good evening.
Good evening.
So I'm just going to continue the funnest part, celebrations. And the images you see here are from our adaptive classrooms. And as you can see, a lot of multi-sensory strategies and tools were used to keep some of our most challenged students engaged because it was a long day for summer school. These are a few images from our elementary classrooms, K-5, and they include pictures from our core, our math and reading. We have attached 2 videos there if you find time later. I know we're short on time right now, but one is of students playing math games, which were in everyone's curriculum to keep them engaged and practice with their fluency. And then there's another great video of an enrichment program activity where kids are playing with what we call cardio drums. It was part of their healthy living program. And then the next few slides are just testimonials from our teachers and administrators that took part in the program. And so I encourage you to read these and you'll see that, not just our students, but our teachers and staff all benefited from the program. We have Mr. Kelly at the top saying that he saw students able to reclaim opportunities that they'd missed throughout the year. Just a lot of different testimonials. And we have a teacher who taught 3rd grade, Miss Rhodes, saying within 2 weeks, she started seeing growth. And she just loved to see the joy and the pride of the students as they reach some of the targets that were set for them, even in a small amount of time. We have a quote from Mr. Coven, who basically said that it was a lifesaver, especially when you think about the graduation, and it was a chance for kids to come back and kind of get into school again. And a lot of the teachers benefited as well. So these are just some of the testimonials, and I hope you can go back and read them. And if you have any additional questions about the program for any of the team, we are here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. We present this report for information only. Are there any additional questions?
Great job.
Thank you.
I have a question. And I was just trying to look through my emails to find the emails, but I've had questions about the stipends that were paid for the summer program. And while I understand that when you have funds, you can't use funds for what you want. You've got to use them for what they're specified for. But we have a lot of TAs, from what I'm saying. I've not talked with a lot, but the people who talked to me said there were a lot. So take that with a grain of salt. But what I need us to do is to give an explanation or tell publicly how people were paid and why some got paid and why some didn't. And that would stop the furor that's going on behind the scenes.
Absolutely. Although every employee that we hired this summer was extremely important to the program, we looked at programmatic needs. So what that means is, in spite of the hard work that this team did, we could not run a program if we didn't have a way of recruiting bus drivers. So Mr. Farrow and his team did come up with some funding from their department to pay bonuses for our bus drivers. In addition to that, we knew we were required to feed meals to students. That's a programmatic need. So we worked with Mrs. Miller, and Ms. Miller was able to incentivize all of her folks who worked during the summer as well. The state required that any teacher that we hired, we had to pay them a bonus. So in all fairness, when we realized that we were falling short with some of our certified teachers, we did hire teacher assistants. And I shared that we placed 21 teacher assistants in front of students who served as teachers of record. Again, that's a programmatic need, so we absolutely needed to give those folks whatever bonus we gave teachers. We hired additional teacher assistants Some were hired in positions to teach classes. They did not want to do that. So I explained to the summer school principals that that if they moved them, they needed to understand that they would not get a bonus if they did not serve as a teacher of record. So some of those teacher assistants did not receive bonuses as well. So if a teacher assistant served in a support role, it's important, but they weren't responsible for lesson planning and teaching lessons, so they did not receive bonuses. Furthermore, Mrs. Bullock, we shared that when we hired the staff in writing. We also had opening meetings with them and shared with everyone the breakdown of the bonuses and who would receive bonuses regarding teaching staff.
Thank you, Ms. Nancy Smith. And it's not so much that I didn't understand it.
I understand.
Because I had already been told that from the first question I had talked with Dr. Ellis a couple of months ago, I think now. So I understood it. And when I said that to the people that were talking with me, they did not understand what I was talking about, or so I was told. So what my purpose for asking you that question was simply so we could say it publicly.
Yes, ma'am.
Because my telling them, and they're hearing something else on the street, or even referring them to call here to get direct information, is really of no importance at all if they don't hear it, if they don't listen. And you've got this group over here saying, I got paid. And you got this group over here saying, I didn't. And why did you get money? And I didn't get money. So I wanted it to be said publicly. And I thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate the transparency and the support from the board in allowing us to allocate those budgets and those bonuses as we needed to recruit teachers to work the program this summer, as well as our bus drivers and child nutrition. We did not give our assistant principals who served as principals bonuses as well. So everyone didn't get a bonus, but we looked at who was closest to the students, and it's always the teachers. Are there any additional questions?
Thank you, ma'am. I think you guys did an outstanding job as well this past summer. My question is, well, I commend you guys on the percent change, percent growth. And as far as the summer, how do we looking at sustaining those growth, taking that into the upcoming school year? Mrs. Robin Griffith, we talked about test accountability, maintaining that, bringing that into test accountability, make sure we help lift our schools out of the low performing grades. And the other thing behind that follow with that question would be, are we tracking these students that went through summer school to see how their performance are during the course of the school year?
Yes, sir. We've worked with Mrs. Griffin, and we've already begun doing that work. We will also have personalized education plans for all of those students as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
I do want to answer, respond to how you sustain what we did in summer school. It's simple. You teach the standards because the state tells us what to teach, and you ensure that your instruction is explicit and grounded in research and evidence. So those are the types of programs that we have all the time, but there were enough teachers that we could adequately monitor, because we said we hired 325 teachers. That's the size of a school. So what I always say to principals is what I love about summer school is that's the opportunity for me to be the principal. So I work with these ladies to share my vision of what I want instruction to be like in summer schools. And we ensure that we're in those classrooms and we're providing explicit and immediate feedback to teachers when we see that they're not using the lesson plans and they're not using the resources that we've provided.
So we use that as a lesson learned to take into the school year. That's good.
Yes, sir.
I got one question. Do we have any teacher assistants trying to go back to school and get a teaching degree?
I sure hope so, because we have some phenomenal teacher assistants out there making a difference every day for our children. We absolutely do.
Mr. Lamb. Mrs. Dancy Smith, it's always refreshing to watch your work and your leadership and to watch your end result. You're a tremendous leader. We're fortunate to have you at National County Schools and your team this summer. I've sat back and watched and listened. They were phenomenal. Thank you and your team for the work that you've done.
If you monitor what you expect,
Exactly.
it will get done. And unfortunately, they can't be de facto school administrators during the school year because that's just not what we do. But we get to play principal during the summer, and I love doing it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more, Superintendent, I was noticing that they were using the measurements coming off of iStation. Are you expecting that same type of measurement next year? And how are we going to do it if it's not iStation? Because I have this funny feeling that iStation isn't sticking around.
You are absolutely right. Our station is not sticking around, so you get the prize. We believe in our station, so if we could use our station, we would, but the state has mandated that we use M-Class. We've used it before. It gives us some rich data, so we would do the exact same thing. Use the data to make informed decisions that drive our instruction, because that's what we did with our station.
I was just trying to piggyback off of Mr. Mathematics over here, because he's always asking good questions about data. And then I was like, well, if we're using a different source coming up, how are we going to use your benchmark?
Right. We shared this summer that we have grade level PLCs with all of our teachers. So that's when, as a district, we look at all of the district data and we give, not really give, but we ask teachers to go back and assess what their individual students have done. And based on this data, this is where we want your students to be when we come back for our next district-wide PLC.
One more important question. Is it gold star or what is it I just want?
Well, in the field of education, we like to do a lot of apple shining. So we'll shine a nice big red apple and give it to you. Is that good? Thank you.
Now, testing and accountability, Ms. Robin Griffin.
Oh, I'm sorry. There we go. Well, now the whole thing's come off. All right. So our, we're going to do that one first. I thought the other one was first.
You don't have anything to project for the other.
No, I don't. Okay. So the superintendent has approved 2 requests for research this month. One from Hannah Dixon at ECU, who will be working at Inglewood and Winstead Avenue on her honors thesis. Language development and cognitive processing of English language learners, looking at the dual language programs there. And she is looking at the advantages of bilingualism. It's hard to say with a mask on your face. Bilingualism through comparison of bilingual individuals and monolingual individuals. A second request has come from Amy Richardson from North Central University. She is looking at rural middle school performance, and hers is a case study and factors that contribute to rural middle school performance. She will be talking to the superintendent, middle school principals. She will conduct focus groups with middle school teachers and assistant principals and look for quantitative assessment data to look at what makes a successful rural middle school. Those have been approved by the superintendent this month, and that is for information. Now we'll go to
Any questions, Ms. Griffin? Thank you, Ms. Griffin.
yes.
CTE nursing
No,
clinic.
now my accountability updates.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It was a dual level presentation today. So the 21-22 information, or the 2021 data, has been released by the Department of Public Instruction at the state level, with breakdown data all the way down to the individual school level. For its purpose being planning for instruction, and reflecting off of what Ms. Nancy Smith said earlier about being very intentional about instruction. So that is the purpose of the data that was presented at the last state board meeting. These are the, just a reminder for you, the state and federal assessments that are mandated, starting with grade 3 and going all the way up to grade 12. The data release for the 2021 school year was presented at the state board meeting on September 1st. They made it very clear that there were ESSA waivers for this year, but on top of that, some other additional reporting components were included in that. So we're going to talk about those just a little bit. But the purpose this year is really about student performance and using the test data to be able to tell where our students are, what kind of instructional guidelines we need, where we need to make instructional adjustments, and those kinds of things, more than a comparison from previous years. So the data release for this year does include percent, even though there is not going to be a school report card grade, a report card will still be released. And in that, that breakdown data will include percent proficient for the grade level proficient. That's the levels 3, 4, and 5. The college and career ready, that's levels 4 and 5. The percent proficient at each achievement level, each of the 4 achievement levels. The percent of students who score a 17 composite on the ACT, and that is the UNC level of 17. The percent of students earning silver, gold, or platinum on the WorkKey certificate. This aggregate data by race, ethnicity, poverty, students with disabilities, English learners, participation and non-participation will be presented this year. That non-participation piece is new. And what basically they will break down non-participation by subgroup. And so that is really, I think, a way for the state to report which districts did a really good job of pulling their students in and working with families for testing. The percent of students who exit the English learner identification area, cohort graduation rate, and the disaggregate 11th grade students who participated in WorkKeys and ACT. So some of the highlights this year, we really focused on participation, trying to get as many students as we could in to test. We even went to DPI and requested an extension to our test window so that we could give families that flexibility of having a little bit more time to get into the building, especially maybe those that weren't as comfortable with their students being in with a large group, so we could let them come in smaller numbers. And that really paid off for us. Even though we know this data is not comparison data, we're not looking at it to previous years because it's just, I mean, it's like a standalone kind of year. We still wanted as many students in as possible so we could see where our students are, where those instructional gaps are, where we need to focus. When we look at things like goal summaries, for example, we can see like which strands were giving our students the greatest challenge. And again, to reflect back on what Ms. Nancy Smith said about teaching the standard, we have to teach the current grade standards, but we also, the teachers have to know sort of where we need to fill in those instructional gaps. So we wanted to get as many students in as we could. Our participation rate for WorkKeys was above the state average. Our participation rate for ACT was above the state average. And grades 3 through 8 reading and math, our participation rate there was greater than 93%. And generally our goal every year is 95. So I was very pleased with the way our schools worked with families to get them in to test so that we could have that strong information around where our students are in order to make those adjustments in curriculum as we move forward or instruction. The four-year graduation rate, we were above the state average, which is I think a real bonus for us because we worked really hard to get those students to that graduation point. I think you mentioned earlier the 22 credits that helped, and then being able to recoup those credits during the summer for those students that were just a few credits short, rather than being non-graduates or dropouts, we were able to recoup them and get them back into that four-year cohort graduation rate. This is just a list of some of what our proficiency levels are. And I have looked at some of the data across the state. I compiled some real quick at a glance data for where we compared to some similar districts around us. And we really didn't look dissimilar to most of them. So it was a challenging year for everybody. So in conclusion, just remember that the reporting of this test data is to support local educators and parents in planning for instruction and making those instructional adjustments. Most of the accountability was waived, even though when we say that, there will not be like identification of low performing schools, low performing districts, those kinds of things. There will not be new lists of those. The TSI and CSI, there will not be new list of those. But all of the data will still be reported in the full disaggregate, usually sometime in October of each year. Are there questions?
The proficiency levels, while I reviewed these and you said you did a comparison with other schools on our level and they were somewhat comparable. What would this look like on a regular school year?
It would not be where we would normally be sitting.
I'm looking for a number. If I'm looking at 3 to 8 reading, we're at 30.5% now. What would it have looked like in 2019?
In 18-19, we were in the high 40s, like 48% in that range.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Griffin. Now we're at CTE Nursing Clinical MOU. Mr. Thompson.
So good evening. Our CTE nursing students are required to engage in clinical hours to meet the standards of their certified nursing assistant or the CNA certification. And so what we do is partner with our healthcare facilities to give these students the opportunity to gain these hours. So you will see there were 3 MOUs, agreements between Nash County and the local healthcare facilities. And so for tonight, the superintendent is recommending approval for the CTE nursing clinical MOUs for Nash Central, Northern Nash, and Southern Nash High Schools.
I will entertain a motion. Motion by Mr. Silver, second by Ms. Washington. Roll call vote. Ms. Washington.
Yes.
Mr. Silver.
Yes.
Mr. Vincent.
Yes.
Mrs. S. Bullock.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Motion passed. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. No other questions or information. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Before going back to the Maxim contract from this committee, I just sent the board and Mary Grant and the superintendent an email with some changes we made for some of our other clients. I've talked to Ms. Grant and would like for the motion to include changes that we previously negotiated with Maxim to have those included in the version that you approved. I emailed them to you but I'd like to include those.
Okay.
Question.
Yes.
So Ron, you just emailed those, you want us to, you make changes. We have not reviewed those changes. So what type of change are we looking at?
Yeah, I can walk you through them real quick. I mean, it's adding a requirement for background checks, adding a requirement for background checks, adding compliance with your board policies when they're on your campuses, adding a requirement, noting that you guys are with the school board's trust and that you don't really have insurance to clarify the insurance requirements. adding, deleting the requirement that you pay the other side of the currency, adding, making North Carolina the state where any disputes that we resolve instead of having to go to Maryland, noting that they are not on the list of restricted companies. You're supposed to have this provision in all of your contracts. So we've included that, adding your anti-nepotism policy language in here. That's required also with your contracts. Just a couple things like that.
So the motion just needs to state the revised contract for maximum.
Yeah, maximum. So you can say including the changes Farrington Smith previously negotiated.
Would we do that now, or we need to do that at the board meeting, since that committee?
I think you can do it at the board meeting now. I think it'd be easier to just do it at the board
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah, heard back from Maxim, and they at initial glance are fine with all the changes because it was with Orange County where they already made the changes to the
Correct.
contract, and they did not foresee any issues with that. To review more smart.
Thank you.
Not any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Silver, second,
Second.
by Mr. Bissett. All in favor, say aye. All opposed likewise, motion carried. We will now go into the work session. I will call the Nash County Public School Board of Education work session to order. Roll call vote, Ms. Chavis,
Here.
Mr. Edwards.
Here.
Yes, Mr. Bissett.
Yeah.
Mr. Sharp,
Yes.
Mr. Dunn.
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins. Here. Mr. Silver.
Yes.
Ms. Washington.
Here.
Ms. E. Bullock.
Yeah.
Ms. S. Bullock.
Yes.
I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. So moved. Motion by Mr. Sharp to adopt the agenda, second by Ms. Chavis. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All nay votes, motion carried. I will entertain a motion to go in closed session.
I make the motion that we go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11, A1, A3, and A6 to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel files under General Statute 115C-321 to consider matters relating to initial employment of an individual employee, to prevent the disclosure of confidential student records under General Statute 115C-402, and to consult with the board's attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege.
Motion by Mr. Jenkins. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Sharp. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise, motion carried. We will now go to closed session.
Are we staying here?
I think we'll stay here. It'll be easier for our guests to leave. We'll be right in place to come back.
You'll start first, meet Miss Wallace. Mr. Sparrow, can you get Miss Wallace since we're meeting in here? You first, but I didn't know if she went to that other room.
We're set up in the boardroom.
Yeah, they got things set up for us.
I don't
Oh, they
personally-
said something.